Hey, Nikki, quick question. If I slap a fancy font on my name and call it a day, does that count as branding?
Well, Laura, if you also use papyrus, we're going to have to talk about your life choices.
Hey, at least I didn't say Comic Sans.
Oh, but seriously, so many people think that branding stops at just a logo. It's like thinking you're a gourmet chef because you can follow a HelloFresh recipe.
Hey, now, don't knock HelloFresh. But you're right. Branding is a lot more than just a logo. It's about how people experience you and your art. And today, we're going to talk about what that really means. Hi, this is Laura Lee Griffin.
And this is Nikki May with the Startist Society, inspiring you to stop getting in your own way and start building an art biz and life that you love.
We are artists who believe strongly in the power of community, accountability, following your intuition, taking small, actionable steps, and breaking down the barriers of fear and procrastination that keep you stuck.
Follow along with us on our creative business journey as we encourage you on yours.
So branding, it's more than a logo. It's how your audience sees you, how they feel when they encounter your work, and how they remember you.
Exactly, Laura. It's the full package, from your color palette to your tone of voice, how you photograph your work, and even how you show up online or in person.
We'll cover the essentials of building a brand, whether you're a DIYer on a budget or ready to hire a pro.
Plus, we'll dive into brand voice, how you speak to your audience, and brand photography, which is basically how you make your work look like it belongs in a gallery and not a Craigslist ad.
Listen in for some actionable advice, a freebie to help you get started, and probably a handful of eye roll inducing jokes from Nikki.
Hey, Laura, those bad jokes are part of my brand. So, your logo is really just the tip of the giant branding iceberg.
Mm-hmm.
Branding is how people experience your art and your business and ultimately you. It's visual identity, like we said, your colors, your fonts, your logo, but also your messaging, your tone of voice, and even how your work is presented online or in person.
Basically, it's the whole vibe. If your brand were a person, how would they walk into a room? Are they confident? Are they quirky? Are they dressed in head to toe neon?
No, it's opera pink.
I don't actually wear opera pink, Nikki. I just love the color to paint with.
I know, and I thank you for that. So, it's also about consistency. When your audience encounters your brand, they should feel like they're meeting the same person every time.
So why does branding even matter for artists? Can't you just let your art speak for itself?
Well, you could, but that's kind of like showing up for a job interview in pajamas. You might be a genius, but who's going to know that and take you seriously?
Well, solid, consistent branding helps you stand out, it builds trust, and it makes a lasting impression.
It's also a major confidence booster. When you've got a polished brand you're proud of, you're much more likely to share it online and submit your work to galleries or send out licensing pitches.
And when your branding aligns with your values and your art, it creates a stronger connection with your audience. People buy from artists that they feel connected to.
Exactly, Laura. It's like dating. You don't just throw up a profile picture and say, "Here I am." Well, I have noticed that a lot of people do just that. But if you want people to swipe right on your art, you curate the whole experience, and branding is your creative Tinder profile.
Well, Nikki, I think mine would be more of a business Bumble than a business Tinder. All right. Well, let's get into the essentials of branding, starting with visual identity.
And like we said earlier, if your brand were a person, how would they dress? Are they chic and polished, funky and eclectic, or are they like me, dirty and disheveled?
To create a cohesive visual identity, you need a few key pieces: a color palette, a couple of fonts, and a logo. Even if your logo is just your name in a cool font, that's a great starting point.
And like we said before, don't use papyrus or Comic Sans. Just don't. So let me give you some visual identity tips. When it comes to colors, choose maybe 3 to 5 colors that represent your style and stick to them everywhere. Your website, social media, your packaging. There are great tools online to help you pick a color palette if you're having trouble. There's Coolers and Adobe Color. They can help you find palettes that work well together.
And we'll link to those in the show notes. Next, for fonts, use one font for your headings and another font for your body text. And don't get too fancy because the most important thing is that they're easy to read.
Absolutely. And as for your logo, keep it simple, whether it's just your name in a bold font, a custom illustration in your style, or simply your signature. Your logo should be versatile and recognizable.
Yeah, and I noticed that some people also get a little bit crazy with the colors in their logo. And I think your logo should be something that can be in one solid color or maybe, two-tone, but not anything like really crazy on the color scale there.
Keep it simple.
Yeah. Nikki, what are your brand colors? I'm curious.
Black like my soul. No, seriously, because my artwork is so vibrant and uses so much color, I really use black and white for my brand colors outside of my artwork so that I can let the art shine. And that's really something I recommend for artists is really keep your brand colors simple if your artwork is colorful.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. I actually use kind of like an indigo type color, like a dark navy, a gold, sort of a teal color, and a magenta color.
Mm-hmm.
I think they go pretty well together. I may shift that up in the next year or so. And when I get a little bit more solid on my brand identity, Nikki. But actually, if you go to the Startist Society website, you'll actually see the colors that we use in Startist Society. So, Nikki, how would you describe those?
Oh, I would call them definitely bright and fun and a bit quirky.
Mm-hmm.
Although I feel like we're overusing the word quirky here, but but it's appropriate. It's bright and fun and sunny, and I actually use more colors in the Startist Society brand than I recommend artists use, but that's because the podcast itself is not an artist. It doesn't have artwork that we're showing off. The brand colors make up the art.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, you can think of your visual identity like the uniform for your brand. It tells people what to expect before they even dive deeper into your work. Now let's talk a little bit about brand voice. So, Nikki, you might be an expert here.
Well, I do talk a lot. And over you.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So your brand voice is basically how you communicate with your audience. It's not just the words that you choose, it's how you say them.
So here's a few brand voice tips. You want to define your personality. Are you warm and approachable? Are you edgy and bold? Think about how you want people to feel when they read your captions on social media or your emails, and let your written voice communicate those feelings.
And use consistent language. You could create a word bank of terms and phrases that you use often. For example, I talk about bourbon and am prone to throw in a few 4-letter words here and there. While Laura is more likely to say things that read professional but slightly quirky. There's that word again.
Yeah, I might throw in I'm going to get a little woo-woo on you now.
Right.
And my 4-letter words are like, dang. That's my 4-letter word. So
so edgy.
All right. Well, the next tip is to be authentic. Don't try to sound like someone else. If you're naturally funny, let that shine through. If you're more serious, embrace it.
Those are great tips for brand voice.
Finally, we have brand photography. Now, this is a huge part of how people experience your brand visually, mostly on your website and social media.
Yeah, and it's not just about snapping a quick photo and calling it good. Your brand photography should look professional and cohesive. A few tips for photography. Showcase your work in context. If you're an artist, don't just show a painting. Show it hanging in a beautifully lit room or in a gallery or styled on a shelf.
Use consistent editing. You might use tools like Lightroom presets to give all of your photos the same tone and the same mood.
Invest in quality if you can. But if you can't hire a pro, use natural lighting, a tripod, and a clean backdrop to elevate your photos.
You can get away with even using your phone for a lot of your photography if you have great natural light and almost any newish smartphone, right? They're pretty amazing what they can do now.
Yeah, they really are. But basically, stop using your kitchen table as your default photo studio unless your art is inspired by coffee stains and crumbs.
Yeah, and we actually recorded a whole episode on photography. So check out episode number 111, where we do a deep dive on the topic.
And so there's the basics of branding for artists. Visual identity, brand voice, and photography are the holy trinity of branding essentials.
All right, now that we've covered the essentials, let's break this down into 3 levels of branding so that you can meet your brand where your bank account is at.
And by levels, we mean how much time, energy, and money you're ready to invest. So the first level is sort of a scrappy DIY approach. For your visual identity, you can use free tools like Canva to create your logo and templates. Stick to a simple, consistent color palette and fonts, like we said.
For your brand voice, you can write a short bio and tagline that reflect your style. Keep your messaging authentic and conversational.
And for photography, you can use your phone, but focus on lighting and clean backgrounds. As we just mentioned, you can edit with Lightroom presets on your phone to keep the mood consistent. Think of this one as me cooking on my bus. It's quick, cheap, and gets the job done, but it's not winning any Michelin stars.
All right, so let's look at level 2, which is sort of mid-tier branding. So for your visual identity, you can invest in a pre-made brand kit or logo from sites like Creative Market. You can start using a custom domain name for your website.
And for your brand voice, you might want to refine your messaging a bit. You could consider working with a content strategist or coach or ChatGPT to develop a consistent tone and language.
And for photography, you could book a professional mini photo shoot or upgrade your setup with a ring light and a DSLR camera, for example.
This level's like Laura's recent foray into cooking using HelloFresh. You'll get great Instagram-ready meals, but you got a little help from the pros.
All right, so let's talk about level 3 now, Nikki, for pro branding.
When you're ready to invest, for visual identities, you could hire a brand designer like me to create a custom logo, color palette, fonts, and a style guide that you can follow to remain consistent.
For your brand voice, you could collaborate with a copywriter to craft polished, consistent messaging for your website, social media, and emails.
And for photography, you could work with a professional photographer to create a library of branded images that showcase your work and your process. And it's also great to get some shots of you working in your studio. And this is the 5-course meal of branding. Your audience will look at your brand and say, take my money.
That's the Michelin star, right?
That's the Michelin star. Absolutely. Hey, Startists, it's Nikki here. Your art tells a story. Shouldn't your brand do the same? I specialize in creating cohesive branding and websites that feel as personal and unique as your work. From crafting a logo that reflects your style to designing a website that showcases your art and draws people in, I'll help you present yourself to the world with confidence. Overwhelmed by all the decisions, logos, colors, fonts, and everything else? Don't stress. I'll guide you through the process and make sure everything comes together in a way that's both professional and authentically you. Whether you're just starting out or ready to take your creative business to the next level, let's work together to build a brand as beautiful as your art. Ready to get started? Visit nikkimay.com and let's chat.
All right. So before we wrap up, let's leave our listeners with some actionable steps they can take today.
Because who doesn't love a task list they can check off, right, Laura?
I love one. All right. So number 1, audit your current brand. Look at your website, social media, and materials. Is everything consistent? Does it reflect your style and your values? Write down what's working and what's not, and what you may want to change.
And start small. Pick one thing to improve. Choose something manageable like updating your color palette, rewriting your bio, or taking better photos of your work. Little changes can make a big difference.
Number 3 is to create a simple style guide. Write down your brand colors, your fonts, your tone of voice, and how to use your logo. This keeps you consistent across platforms. Think of it as your branding cheat sheet.
And you could schedule a branding workday for yourself. Block off a few hours to focus on your brand. Work on updating your website, creating new photos, or designing cohesive templates.
And 5, download our freebie. Grab the Branding Starter Kit worksheet in the show notes to map out your visual identity, brand voice, and photography plan.
And if you're feeling overwhelmed, just think branding is a marathon, not a sprint.
Consistency is the goal, so take it one step at a time and you'll build a brand that you're proud of.
If this episode got you inspired to work on your brand, grab our free Branding Starter Kit worksheet at startistsociety.com/branding and start mapping out your own unique identity.
And as always, share this episode with your fellow artists, leave us a review, and subscribe so you don't miss any future chaos. Value.
Hey, chaos is a big part of my brand.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.